Hello and welcome to another edition of Breakfast Club from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
And I'm Adam.
Welcome David and Adam. Great to see you, David, and also great to see you, Adam, as well. It's fresh from my interview with you earlier in the week with Meet the Manager, which I was very pleased has gone down very well. People liked to hear about your bespoke tactics and strategy. So I think we should kick off straight away with having a look at your team. And what I'd like you to do is, for those that hadn't seen the Meet the Manager video, kind of briefly explain what your strategy is and how you've applied that to whatever you've done or haven't done this week. So we're going to put your team up on the screen and fire away, Adam.
So firstly, I'll try and let you get a word in today, Joe.
Okay, that'll be good.
So I think my strategy for those that haven't watched the video is it really combines stats, form, and underlying stats with fixtures, particularly I'd say six to 8 game weeks, and also read a lot in the local press and watch a lot of football. So I think looking at my team this week, at the start of the week, I was pretty adamant I'm not going to make any changes, and I think as closer it's got to the deadline, I've really sort of started contemplating things. So I suppose the 3 players that I've really looked at getting rid of, I think Fraser wasn't going to go because of the fixture this week; it's too good at Fulham away. But the 3 players were Jimenez, Richarlison, and Bellerin. But that was possibly before the performance on Monday night. So if I start with Bellerin, the reason I was looking to get rid of him was really just to bring Mendy in. But I think it wouldn't make sense to do it this week for a number of reasons. I thought Bellerin had a great attacking game on Monday. He had the most touches in the final third, I think, of any defender. And when you actually compare him to Mendy in like for like from their last games, he compares quite favourably. More touches in the box. The similar for chances created. So it doesn't make sense to do it this week, particularly when he's going away to Palace, who haven't scored at home. I've probably jinxed that there. But I think as well, he's just looking very attacking. I think with Ozil in the team, I noticed he was actually playing a lot of good balls to Bellerin, and he was getting in good position.
That's something I picked up with that Arsenal game as well. It wasn't just Özil kind of running the show, but he was definitely looking at Bellerin to be that attacking outlet, and that link-up play, the 1-2s. It was a joy to watch, really.
I think both the goals showed that. I'd agree with that. So Bellerin's going nowhere. I think I will look at Man City defence next week almost certainly, but there will definitely be one eye on the games because I play Monday and Thursday. So that Thursday line I'll probably keep an eye on because I won't be bringing in any players that play on the Thursday against Fulham, I think they've got. Then so the other possible transfer. So Richarlison, this is probably one I was closest to doing Richarlison to Maddison. However, I think whilst Richarlison's goal attempts have gone down to his playing through the centre, I just think he needs another chance. United don't look great at home. I mean, Newcastle put 2 past them in their last game, and I think if he's moved back out to the wing, I think he just deserves at least another chance. He's got Brighton at home next week. Everton are also on good form. I didn't realise, I sort of overlooked this, but I think since he's come back in the team, they've won 3 or 4. So I think when you're putting all those factors in, and then from an Everton point of view, from a Leicester point of view, there's been some rumours that Vardy's not starting. I think that a few of the players seem a bit disgruntled with Puyol, which is a bit of an issue. It could mean Maddison's on pens, but I actually fancy West Ham to beat them today. I think looking at the player that I would really look at is and probably the thing that put me off bringing Maddison in is looking at Sigurdsson. And when you compare them last 4 game weeks, it just Sigurdsson for 0.4 more. I mean, he's created goal attempts. I like for Sigurdsson, don't care where they are, but he's had 16 versus Maddison 6. But Sigurdsson's actually had 5 in the box, almost as many in the box as Maddison's had in total. Chances created 16 for Sigurdsson, 10 for Maddison, and I think a lot of them are coming from corners, which is fine, but. And then even with penalty box touches, Sigurdsson's had 13, Maddison's had 2, and just actual involvement, touches in the final third. Sigurdsson, has got about 50% more than in there. So
So this goes back to something we were talking about on the Meet the Manager video about looking long term as well and looking at these stats, and it's clear that on the kind of Richarlison, Maddison, Sigurdsson, you've got one slot for that. It's just one of them is gonna have that slot. So and at the moment, well, from what you've just been saying and earlier in the week, Sigurdsson is just the runaway leader with that. And I think you're right. You also mentioned, this is another thing you mentioned earlier in the week, was about keeping tabs on newspapers and particularly local newspapers as well. And you raise a good point with the Vardy one, because Vardy, I think, looks on paper a brilliant option this week. But then we hear there's some falling out. And the thing is, there could be... I
think Mrs. Vardy liked something on Twitter as well.
Yeah, it's like...
Clearly Jamie's been moaning about his boss at home whilst they've been watching Gogglebox or something.
Oh, right. And, it's those tidbits like that. But, of course, we know with Ranieri as well, we know how the power that the Leicester players can have over managerial decisions as well. I mean, they have a track record.
The Don there. He's like the godfather there, apparently. That's what the local journalists say.
No, he really...
I think the other thing which I quite like about Sigurdsson is the fixtures aren't brilliant. I think it's a good one, then a bad one. But if you look at his actual track record, he has scored at Old Trafford, he scored at the Etihad, he scored a lot of goals in these bigger games, and his record's actually okay. I think part of that could be because obviously City probably don't allow many chances in the box, so it's going to be like a 30-yarder that's going to beat him, or assisting from a set piece. So I'm not actually I think one of the things I mentioned in Meet the Manager video is looking at how players do in different types of fixtures, and I always block them into 4. So top 6 and bottom 6 home and away. So top 6 and non-top 6 home and away. So I'm not actually as put off by Sigurdsson's fixtures. I think on paper Maddison's got great fixtures, but I think just the stuff in the camp, something doesn't seem right there for me.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's a kind of a wait and see. I mean, I've got Maddison. I'm hopeful, particularly the fact that if Vardy doesn't play, then he'll be on penalties, which would be nice.
He will, and I think they look dangerous from set pieces. So I wouldn't be surprised. He looks more likely to get assists for me than he does goals because he hasn't had many shots, and the two of his. I mean, if you look at all of his goals, how they've come, he hasn't.
I was going to say, in that Arsenal game, there was one particular corner, wasn't there, that
hit the bar, I think.
And I can't remember the Leicester player whose head it was aimed precision perfectly to, but it was a great corner, and very unlucky. It hit, really, really hammered that bar as well. And I'd like to see more of that, but a little bit lower with the shot this time into the net.
And then I suppose my final choice in the team was, do I replace Jimenez? And I've decided to keep him. I think, look, a few factors for this. I think he was under par as the rest of Wolves were last week. I think he just got back from Mexico and played 90 minutes. I think he's got a lot of energy, and he does, so I think that would have hindered him. I think there's a good guy to follow on Twitter, a guy called Bradley Park. If you don't already, he's a good, I think, in the know for Wolves. And I think he's posted some stuff that they're actually quite good at responding to defeats, particularly last year. And he's expecting a few changes to freshen things up, potentially in the wide areas. So I'm going to stick with him. I think in terms of players that I was considering, and I looked at Ings, and he's got less than 3 points a game at home this season. And Southampton, I don't fancy him to score more than 1. So that wasn't really an option. And then they've got City next week. One player that stats-wise interests me is Depotre. So his last 4 game weeks, he's had, I think, 7 shots in the box, 2 big chances. He's actually, I think my concern was, would he be nailed? And he's played 329 minutes. So he's not far off playing most of the minutes there. 21 penalty box touches. My big concern, though, is Huddersfield don't score many goals. He's got the fixtures that match up, so I'm going to watch him against Watford today. He's a possible option, although I'm not that excited about that move.
He's a tricky price, though, isn't he? So he's a 5.2 forward, and let's be fair to Depotre. For a rubbish forward in a rubbish side, I'd be looking at 4.5. But as you said, he's got the underlying stats, so he fits number 1 of your criteria. And looking at the fixtures, so obviously Watford next coming up this time around, and then he's got Fulham at home, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Brighton at home, Bournemouth away. These are really great fixtures. So I wish he was 4.5. I'd be really tempted to get him in as a bit of a good bench fodder.
Absolutely.
Tricky price.
The other player who could interest me, and this is a bit of, is Josh King, and I know he's got tough fixtures, but when I've watched Bournemouth this year, where I felt the most effective is on the counter attack, and they've got some tougher fixtures coming up. And I'm just wondering, his stats are really good for the last 4. Could Bournemouth still be an option? So again, he's not somebody I'm going to rush to bring in, but I wouldn't be, if I thought Bournemouth were going to, counter attack and still get chances. They are fairly attacking and have scored against a lot of the top sides. I know, so that wouldn't necessarily put me off, but I'd want to do a bit more analysis on that.
So I mean, just with your team, your decision. So what have you done this week?
I've done nothing.
Brilliant.
And, so after all that, I've done absolutely nothing. I'm captaining Salah. Probably the other decision I had was who do I go first on my bench. I've decided to go with Bennett rather than Billing first, purely because I think Wolves are more likely to keep a clean sheet than for Billing to be involved in the goal, because his goal involvement isn't that high. Huddersfield don't really score that many at all. So I don't see him scoring more than one. And if they do score, Wolves could keep a clean sheet. So that's my logic. So not doing any moves this week. I'm hoping for an Jimenez goal. He scored 4. He's been involved in 4 of the last 5. So I'd hope for that. But yeah, and I think it gives me the flexibility next week, which I know we're going to talk around for some of the other teams. The flexibility next week is key, because I'm going to be looking at City defence, and then what do I do with the likes of possibly Fraser. Well,
that flexibility angle, something we'll talk about in a bit when we go through my team. But David, just first of all, before we come to your team, what do you think of Adam's team there, and anything particularly stand out? And also, what do you think about his decision to do absolutely nothing?
Oh, it's absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, when you've got so many people in your team that you don't want to move any of them on, and yeah, if you've got people that, so Man City is a great example. You don't really want to be getting in on their defence this week because it's kind of a tough fixture, but then afterwards you do. Giving yourself that flexibility to make those moves next week is vital. And so many of the people that are doing well this season are people who bank their transfers when they can. So yeah, it's the right thing to do in my opinion.
Okay, well David, let's have a look at your team, because now what we've done, actually, we haven't got your current team because you're still wondering what to do. So what we've got, we put up an image of your Game Week 9 sides. What's going through your head? What changes are you considering?
Oh, well, I mean, I want to do nothing as well, but I have the curse in disguise of 2 free transfers. It's horrible.
Poor soul.
But for the second week in a row, and I can't even do Hennessy to Fabianski anymore because I've already done that. But worth pointing out, by the way, that actually loads of people have been doing that and getting in contact with me on Twitter and saying, "Hey, look, I did it as well." So I've started a trend clearly. But yeah, there's just so many things about my team that I don't want to change. So I mean, yeah, I'm going to go with the Wolves guys. I think they've allowed fewer big chances than anyone else away from home. They're even better defensively apparently away from home than Liverpool and City, so they're going nowhere. And obviously, yeah, as we've been hearing, very good at bouncing back. I've got Alonso, but away at Burnley, don't want to move him on. I've got Robertson, Salah, they stay for obvious reasons. Maddison could be on his way out, but I've got to give him a home game against West Ham if he could be on penalties. Fraser, I'd love to move on, but it's Fulham. Then Aguero, Mitrovic, and Jimenez, all got reasons to stick around. Some that have been touched on already and some that are kind of obvious. So, yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of options I could do. So, I mean, I want Mendy back, but it's just who I move on. And I don't really want him this week. That's the other thing. I mean, I could get him this week to get him in early. I've got 1.7 in the bank, so I could move Yedlin to Mendy, but like I said, I don't want him this week. And then I have the problem of who do I bench going forward? Because,
And you 0.1 short of doing that?
No, well, I might be. I don't know. That's
incredible. You've just analysed the numbers quickly in your head.
4.5, 1.7. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he's 6'3".
So I looked at that for you, and I thought that would be the move that I would do, and it just could. Yeah, it obviously doesn't.
It's a bit short, but I mean, I could with some moving. I mean, that's probably going to be something I'm going to have to address next week because I am going to need Mendy, and it will need some money moved around. So I mean, I'm definitely going to need my 2 transfers next week. I looked at Yedlin to Lovren, but I don't really think Lovren's necessarily nailed on to play. I could do Alonso to Rudiger, but I don't like the idea of it feels too sideways. I mean, Rudiger's been ahead of Alonso for goal threat, but it's kind of really only been set pieces, and I don't see Chelsea as a set piece team. I could get Arnautovic in for Jimenez, but I really want to do that next week again because I like Jimenez's fixture this week. So many things. So I mean, a lot of people have been thinking about, because there's a few people on Twitter as well who've had the similar problem of, is it maybe a good idea to just do nothing and not force a transfer and just, even though I've got two, and just leave it anyway? I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before we came on air. I mean, what do you think, Adam? Is it a good idea to just do nothing even when I've got two transfers free?
I think there's no harm in doing that. There's loads of people that I spoke to this week, FPL Sid, Holly, etc., are in a similar predicament. And I think sometimes you can try and force a transfer, which can be a mistake. You'll instantly regret it if the player you take out, who's got a similar level fixture, does well. I suppose, because I'd looked at the Mendy shout, the only other thing, I'd be tempted to do Jimenez to Arnautovic if you were going to be bringing him in, because he has looked brilliant, I think, the last couple of games. I know people say he's carrying an injury, but he's looked very threatening, I think, and he should have scored against Brighton. He was unlucky on a couple of occasions. He definitely should have scored against Spurs, but I like it because he brings other people into play. And with all the stuff we've said about Leicester, I don't know, I could see, and I know West Ham have had 2 defeats, but I think they've been a little bit unlucky to lose both games, so I could see them bouncing back today, particularly as Leicester had a tough game. So I think Brighton Wolves will be quite close, and I think Jimenez may get something, but if you ask me who will score more this week out of Jimenez and Arnautovic, I would go with Arnautovic. But it's just if you intend to bring him in, I think if you would look at other options next week and you maybe would want to keep Jimenez long term, it's not the right move to do. So maybe if you're going to swap him for Mitrovic, for example.
I mean, that's what I could do. I mean, I guess it comes down to what I want to do about Mendy, because if I did Jimenez to Arnautovic, that's kind of eaten up what I've got available, and then I'd have to kind of look to see who else I could then downgrade to then get Mendy in for probably Alonso, which I'm not too sure I want to do, because I still like Chelsea's fixtures from a defensive point of view. I want to have a Chelsea defender for at least the next 3 game weeks. So yeah, it's tricky. It requires a lot of thought. The only other one I had thought, someone got in contact this week, and because we've just been talking about Huddersfield and how they actually looked quite good defensively against Liverpool, and they've been ranking fairly well for terms of big chances they've allowed. I could, if I wanted to maybe just improve my bench a little bit, move Yedlin to Schindler, because then that way I'm putting a bit more money into the bank. But I haven't looked into it in great detail yet. It's just something that is worth thinking about, because Huddersfield have been one of these teams where they haven't actually been as bad defensively as people think. It's just a case of they can't score goals. That's their big problem. So do that. He's
got good fixtures. He does well for bonus as well. So
yeah, exactly.
It's an option. It's just whether you think Newcastle will turn it round, and I was expecting them to do it against Brighton.
Same. That's the thing.
Will get it right at some point, and they usually are quite reliable defensively. So I mean, it's a luxury. I wish I was in your position. So it's a good position to be in if you genuinely are struggling to find a transfer and you've got 2 frees.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that the flip side is I wish I was in your position. I wish I didn't have to think.
Well, I slept very well last night, other than the children waking up a few times. I think when you haven't got as many transfer dilemmas, it is quite nice.
Yeah, that's true. I couldn't sleep last night. I was just sat there in bed, not being able to sleep at all. Should I move this person? Have I got enough money for Mendy? Turns out I didn't. I shouldn't have wasted my time thinking about it.
While you've been talking, David, I've been having a look at my goals imminent table, which I like to do.
Right.
With people
mentioned again.
And I always want to give it a mention. But here's the thing. So Mitrovic is top of that. So he's had the most goal attempts and indeed shots in the box, with only getting 1 goal in the last 4. So that indicates he should do well. But his problem is on target. His shots on target. He's getting in the right positions. He's shooting like crazy. But he's only got those 3 shots on target as well. So he's going to have to improve that, really. And because, he is I wouldn't say a top striker, but he's a very good striker. So the indications are, at some point, when you get to the top of the goals imminent table, at some point something's going to give. And he's gonna score and then get off it.
Unless you're Redmond, like you pointed out the other day.
Yeah, unless you're Redmond, in which case he's perennially always there. Now Jimenez was on it last week, and he dropped off, because his underlying stats had dropped off in that last game. But that contributed to a 4-week drop off in stats. So that, yes, he could be for the chop. But Arnautovic is second, and I actually prefer Arnautovic on the goals in the table than Mitrovic, because he's had 12 goal attempts, 8 in the box, and 6 on target. So he's doing everything right. And it's, as Adam said, that actually indicates he's been really unlucky, that he really should have been putting those chances away. He hasn't actually missed. He's only had one big chance, but he hasn't missed any. So, yeah, he's doing well. So, because he has got 1 goal over those 4 games. So I think, yeah, Arnautovic is a player I want as well. But yeah, so David, so what's going to happen this week? You've got 2 free transfers. So you've got to do something.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, the thing is, the great thing is we've got the luxury of the later deadline. I've been looking after the kids this morning, so my intention is to properly sort it out between now and 2 o'clock, which is helpful. I think that's probably why I'm still sat here, just having not had a clue, because when you have that later deadline, you can kind of you can kind of put it off a little bit. I think. I mean, it's probably the wrong decision. I know. Tom from Who Got the Assist likes to say I don't make any transfers on deadline day for any game week, because then I'll overthink it, which is what I should do, but I never follow that through ever. I just always panic. Oh yeah, do it tomorrow. And yeah, here we are, several hours to deadline, and I still don't know. I mean, basically, so yeah, the list of options, it'll either probably be Yedlin to Schindler, Jimenez to Arnautovic, Alonso to Rudiger. They're probably the 3 that I'd probably look at, but it just kind of depends on what I need to work out what I want to do next week as well. Because as we sort of discussed there, if I upgrade any of my options, then it means I need to perhaps think of a different way of getting him Mendy.
I mean, I think if I was in your shoes, I would do Jimenez to Arnautovic, because I think Arnautovic is a player you're going to want long term, and he's got a great fixture this week.
He's been on my list for a while.
And also, you go into next week with 2 free transfers, so that gives you that option to tap in again to the Man City defence and downgrade elsewhere.
There's no way I'm using both my transfers. No. I mean, I've had this 2 transfers banked for several weeks now, which is nice, because it does always sit there as almost like a backstop. Okay. If I get anything wrong, then I can tell myself, well, I can do a mini wildcard for -4 next week. So,
okay. Well,
I'd agree with Joe, and I just think, like you said, look at your moves for next week. But for me, Jimenez to Arnautovic for 3 in the position you're in seems like a very good decision. I think.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and then obviously when Jimenez gets his hat trick, Arnautovic limps off. His knee finally gives in.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But yeah, it's a really, really important couple of hours for me. Yeah. So yeah,
well, let's have a look at my team then. Now, my decision. I haven't made my transfer yet. I'm concerned about Alexander Arnold. But we're having there's rumours and rumblings that Klopp will go with exactly the same team, because there's no midweek game next week, so there's no need for them to be dropped. There's no need for anyone to be rested, and also the midweek game was against a poor side in Europe, and they're facing a poor side in Britain. I say Britain because Cardiff are obviously in Welsh. So they've and that was a perfect blend midweek, really, of attack and defence, and it was a great result, and I can see the logic of sticking with them, but I think it's too big a risk. I've had last week missing out on that Liverpool clean sheet when everyone else had Robertson was heartbreaking, because I had the right decision, as in investing a Liverpool defender. It's just the wrong one. And going into that Cardiff game, looking at that team sheet and seeing no Alexander Arnold in the first 11 will be really annoying, because I pretty much know everyone's going to be getting 6 to 8 points from their Liverpool defender, and I'll miss out. So I'm 6 to 8 points behind. And because of Salah's lack of bonus, the defenders at Liverpool do really well for bonus. Unlike, say, Laporte, who should be mopping up bonus at Man City, but he can't get a look in because of the fabulous attacking play there. So
exactly.
He's doing the same thing that Otamendi did last year, in that he's the ball distributor. Yeah. And on the BPS is passes, but BPS or pass completion is in a similar place to Otamendi. Yeah. But he can't seem
phenomenal on the Sky game.
Yeah, in the Sky game, he's.
First name on the Sky team sheet.
He was.
Yeah.
He should have been on mine. That's why I've fallen down the rankings. I'm getting Laporte back in. He's an absolute legend in that game, as Otamendi was last season, because of course Sky rewards those things, whereas FPL doesn't. So basically, Alexander-Arnold is the one I'm looking at. Trippier is another player I'm looking at. I'm benching him this week, so if I get rid of him, I'm not losing out. But Trippier's been fantastic for me. I've had him 4 game weeks. He's averaging 7 points a game. He's scored in every game, and he's got a couple of really good fixtures coming up as well. So I mean, looking down the list, he's got Wolves away and Crystal Palace away, which I think are really good fixtures for him in terms of attacking returns, as well as potential clean sheets as well. Because slowly but surely, Spurs are actually doing quite well in that regard. But Adam, I'm sure you've got something to say about that. Trippier. I'll come to my reasons why Trippier may go, but from your point of view, do you think Trippier's worth keeping?
I think I've been impressed with him this year, and I think he's done really well. I think look at points per game, he's on set pieces. There's a lot of reasons to keep him, but I would be very tempted if I were you to double up on Liverpool defence. I fancy him for a clean sheet today, and I just think that it gives you the flexibility next week to look at the likes of Mendy, Laporte, and the City defence. I think Spurs have been a little bit leaky as well, but the back, I'll be shocked if they don't concede against Man City. I think the Wolves game is a chance for a clean sheet, and he could do okay in that. But then I think if you brought in Mendy or somebody, they would match it. And I think the game after, they've got Palace away. My only worry for that game is that they need to do well in the Champions League, and I think there is a risk with Trippier of him being rotated at some point.
Okay.
So I'd be a little bit concerned with that, particularly with Eriksen back now. They don't need him as much for the set pieces, and I think after that they've got Chelsea and Arsenal. Again, games I probably won't want to play him in. So the only game I'd be excited about him is really, Wolves, possibly Palace, and I think there are better options. And then you could have the double up today, which I think I've heard, online there's been rumours that TAA, it's the same team as Wednesday. So TAA and Robertson today could be absolutely brilliant. That could be, when you factor in bonus, that could be like...
Yeah, I think you're right. That's the way I'm leaning as well. I'm thinking long-term fiction. As you said, as I did when I got Kane in foolishly for that Cardiff game, it was really a 1 week punt, really. And as you said, Trippier really now is looking like a 1 week punt against probably
1 or 2 week punt, I'd say. Yeah,
one and a bit.
I'd be tempted to bring him back. I know. I think it's at game week 15. They have a great run of fixtures. I would be tempted. I think he is a good option this year, but I think when you're playing the fixtures and there's some great options. I took Robertson out for one of fixtures before. Also, I took Liverpool defence out for that. So I think if you're playing the fixtures with defence, there are better options.
I can get Robertson in for Trippier, obviously, no problem. And that actually gives me enough money in the bank just to do Alexander-Arnold next week to Mendy. So, obviously, if anyone's thinking of getting Mendy in this week, don't. Hold off until like Friday or something when I want to make that move. Don't make that. So, I might actually break one of my rules and do an early transfer for Mendy midweek if I think he's going to go up in price and Alexander-Arnold's going to go down.
I think if he starts Monday, it's worth the risk because they play on Thursday. Yeah. I think if he starts Monday, he's unlikely to play.
I think I may make an early move, something Tuesday, kind of pre Scoutcast next week for Mendy, and I just think it does make sense. It's logical to do that, and also this week I've got a good team for this week. Ings has got a great fixture, Fraser's got a great fixture, Doherty's got an okay fixture, so Doherty probably gone to my bench. But next week, Ings awful fixture, Fraser awful fixture, and their fixtures really get quite bad, and it's not a great fixture for Doherty next week either. So, if Trippier is out because of rotation against Wolves, I'm in a right pickle because I've got a hopeless team. So this would, in a way, kind of be thinking ahead. So, glad we had you on, Adam, because you've given me some good advice. It could all go wrong, and I'll blame you entirely.
I get as much wrong as I do right, so I wouldn't. I wouldn't definitely expect all that to happen.
No, that's fine. No, it's fine. As long as you can take the abuse that I will give you.
I'll take it. Yeah.
But for now, it's been great to have you on, Adam, again. The Meet the Manager video series. I do urge people to watch all of them. All the managers we've had have been great, and watch Adam's one this week as well if you like what he's been saying. He tons more advice he's been giving earlier in the week. David, great to have you on. You're in a great position. You got a nice leisurely day before the chaos of your work to look at all the teams and everything later on. But yeah, you've got not enviable position. You could just do nothing. You could waste a transfer.
It's a poison chalice. It's a poison chalice.
Last week you got a grey arrow. This week you could do the other thing. This is like, bingo. Winning it is top of FPL. Getting a grey arrow, and I think just saying no, I'm going to waste a transfer because my team's so good. Should do it. But for now,
just worth saying, if anyone wants 36,017th place, you're gonna have to fight me for it. All right.
But for now, David, I hope you have another unique game week, and Adam, I hope you have a great game week. I hope I have a good game week, entirely based on Adam's advice. And but for now, goodbye.
Goodbye. See ya. Bye.